Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Book Buzz. And today I'm really excited because we have none other than Susan Highsmith with us. And Susan has written several books that Words Matter Publishing has published. And I'm excited to talk to her about every one of her books. So, Susan, I'm so happy you're here today. Thanks for joining us today.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Tammy.
Susan, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in birth, in working with mothers in birth? I'm going to leave it like that.
You bet. I'd love to tell you. So as you can see by my white hair, this is not the first career that I started in. In fact, I had a couple of others. And I went to a lecture one day with a psychologist who was also a wonderful teacher of mine in 1995. And she said, most of you are having difficulties because you were born in hospitals. And I thought to myself, what could she possibly be talking about? I was born in a hospital and there's nothing wrong with me. Ha ha ha. But we all share an experience, and that is we were all born. And how we were born, where we were born, absolutely makes a difference. Well, I wanted to know more about that. And in 2001, I left a career. I was working in counseling with the Veterans Administration and had a small private practice as well. And I learned about an organization called Santa Barbara Graduate Institute that was offering graduate degrees, masters and PhDs in pre and perinatal psychology and also somatic psychology, another up and coming branch of the field of psychology. And I could not wait to get there. And the universe just said, here I am, go for it. And so in the fall of that year, I started a program of study. It took me about 5 years to get that degree. So I actually graduated when I was 62. But nonetheless, yeah, another subject. But nonetheless, I also, over my lifetime, had married very young. I had 2 children before I was 20. I have 5 gorgeous granddaughters. And my son and my daughter both had daughters. And I thought, I do not want these girls going through what I went through. And, all that's in my first book. As a matter of fact, the very first thing I do is tell my story. And so I really felt like girls really need to be better informed than I was at that time. Of course, at 16, I thought I was awfully smart. Was a humbling experience for me as I developed. But nonetheless, I wrote a book then about, based on my experiences in prenatal and perinatal psychology, a very cumbersome term. It simply means from the point of psychology that things start for us a lot sooner than we ever believed. Instead of the psychologies that would say, well, nothing makes any difference. We don't remember anything before about the age of 3 when we start talking. Not true. Even at birth, yes, we're impressionable. Things happen at that time. But from the moment of conception throughout the rest of our lives, we are getting lots and lots of information. And that information essentially is held in our cells. And we are making decisions based on things that we have essentially forgotten. It's called implicit memory as opposed to explicit memory. Explicit being you can remember what you had for breakfast this morning. Implicit means there's something back there that is a driving force in your life, but you don't remember what that precipitating event was.
Wonderful. That is very, very interesting. And so by learning about this, the implicit information that we have, by learning about this, how does it help us in dealing with our day-to-day endeavors and maybe our passions in life? How does it help us?
That's such a great question. Essentially, there are a number of books out these days about change your brain, change your life, change your mind, change your life, on and on. There are probably a dozen of them like that out there. And they will begin to address why. The thing is, certain things that we have within us are working and certain things are not. You can call it programming, conditioning, belief systems, perceptions, all of those things. And they're either serving us well or they are not. And if we have issues that we can identify, for example, a young woman might come to me and say, I'm being abused. I might say to her, has this ever happened before? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it was in a previous relationship. Yes, my first husband. Yes, my father. Or it might be, I just watched abuse occur in my family of origin. As you begin to pick up these threads of what the patterns are, you can begin to see, oh, maybe this pattern is working out because there's an implicit belief system that that's the way things have to be. And once you get a handle on that, what your issues are, you can begin to say, oh, possibility for change is absolutely totally possible. And that is very, very empowering to recognize that we have something to do. Things are just not randomly happening to us. But it doesn't mean that we need to beat ourselves up. Not at all. Generally, the things that we learned were what our parents taught us, what our peers were sharing with us, what teachers gave to us. And then they become our programming, if you will, in our biocomputer. And we can say, well, this one's working and this one's not, and we're more at choice.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Now, if I'm understanding this correctly, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So we take in information from our environment and our teachers and our peers and our parents, but this implicit information that happened to us long before we really remember it can actually be flavoring the way we process that information and how we can utilize that in our lives and our decision-making process. Is that correct?
That is totally correct.
Okay.
Awesome.
So by learning this implicit information that's back here, we can, and possibly, like you said, you use the example of the woman that says abuse, I'm being abused, and you find out that it's patternistic behavior. If she learns that that is a part of this implicit knowledge that she has, then she has a whole new advantage in life because she can change that. She can
Absolutely.
work with that or work through that.
Indeed. Yes.
Wonderful.
She can begin to make new choices. She can begin to recognize some of the warning signs and be able to say, oh, that looks like a relationship that has disaster written all over it. I'm not going there, as opposed to doing the same thing over and over again.
Susan, I'm going to veer off our scheduled questions here for just a minute because you're really, this is very interesting to me. So let's say you have a woman who, while she's carrying her child, is in an abusive relationship or a volatile situation. She's under a lot of stress, or there's a lot of things going on to her while she's carrying that child. How is that child affected by all of that?
Number one, it is affected. There are magazines written now essentially called Abuse, focusing on abuse that starts while women are pregnant. It's quite amazing, the statistics. And yes, so what we want to do is, certainly me and the people that I am most associated with, are prevention to help reduce stress in many, many ways, because the baby is picking all of this up. Essentially, the mother is a conduit for all of her stress going to the baby. One of the things that the mother could begin to do is talk to the baby. Her thoughts and her words are extremely powerful. There's lots of research showing that babies at birth recognize stories that they heard in the womb. The cat in the hat studies are really great ones, comes out of the 80s research. But babies are hearing and experiencing everything. So abuse for that child is already beginning while it's in utero. That creates a sense of expectation that that's what's normal. We create normal. We normalize. We call it, I call it rationalizing. We tell ourselves rational lies. And then we begin to believe that abuse is something that is inherent in this life when it truly is not. So the best thing, of course, is prevention. And if a mother needs to not be in that situation, she can find relief and some help to not be there. Sometimes simple counseling can help. Sometimes it's a matter of educating daddy because he's afraid. Really what's happening more often than not right now is that daddies aren't showing up. And I talk to young audiences all the time, and I say, if you show up for the conception, show up to raise that child.
Yes, absolutely. That's a wonderful concept, and I wish you well with that that endeavor.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's say I'm going to give you another example and just ask, what if when the mother first finds out she's pregnant, it's an unexpected pregnancy, she's feeling like her entire life is now changed. You know, she's caught off guard. She wasn't expecting this pregnancy. Does that lead the child in the womb to feeling maybe rejected or unwanted, or?
I am amazed at your perception in this field. Absolutely, it does. The statistics will tell us that most of our conceptions, now easily 50% of our conceptions, are unplanned.
Yes.
If they are unintended, that means that they're totally unwanted, or it means that I did want a child, but just not now. And
Exactly.
we need to provide women with a safe place to be able to discuss what's going on in her life. And for me, I know that this is loaded, but honest to God, I am both pro-choice and pro-life. I don't walk in a mother's shoes. I don't know what's going on for her. I would like her to have as many options as possible. So basically, if she is choosing to keep that child, how can we help her feel as stress-free as possible so that she can give the best chance for her child to have the best start possible? A typical and most ideal pregnancy is 280 days. To me, this is 10 months. I'm on a huge campaign to stop saying 9 months. It's a very masculine way of computing time. Women are in tune with the moon, the ebb and flow of the tides, the fact that they cycle every 28 days. 10 of those cycles means that the baby would optimally be born in 280 days. This is March of Dimes research. So I would love to see women feeling better about themselves. I'd like to see them making choices to not conceive before they're ready to. I'd like to see them have an array of choices so that they can use birth control or not. All of these things march us back further and further in time so that we are in the preconception period in order to help mommies be able to get pregnant when they really want to get pregnant, and that that baby be wanted. The research, longitudinal research coming out of Europe on what happens to children who are not wanted, and this is very valid and authenticated research, shows that these children have more mental health issues. They have more suicide, more homicide, more incarceration, more sociopathic behaviors. It goes on and on. Being wanted is fundamental. I don't know where you got that question, Tammy, but I want to tell you, you're brilliant. This is
thank you.
Right in line with all the things that concern people in this field.
Well, thank you. I will tell you that I am very well informed on the subject because I have read this wonderful book by a wonderful author called The Renaissance of Birth. Now, Susan, let's talk a little bit about your first book. This is an amazing read. And if you haven't read it, you need to, and you will get great questions for Susan when you read this book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I really felt that I had something to say, and I wanted to say it to lay readers, meaning just people off the street. I wasn't interested in preaching to people who already have degrees in this field. They know this subject. It's young people who do not. And so I wanted to make it easy for young people, young women who are sexually active, and this is a lot of kids, to be able to understand what's going on. So I shared some of the research from my dissertation, and then I went into some very fundamental discussions like, so what is pre and perinatal psychology anyway? And that would be, prenatal meaning before birth, perinatal meaning around the time of birth, and why is this important? Addressing some of the questions that you have just asked.
So you put out this book with the idea of helping people make conscious decisions on when and where to have the baby, when in their life they're ready for a baby, and helping them make good conscious decisions. Let's say that a mother didn't make that good conscious decision. She is pregnant. It was an unexpected pregnancy, but she has decided to carry the baby. How does this book help her?
Well, I would think that if she reads particularly, Well, the early chapters would share my own experience of having had exactly that experience.
Yes.
And then what other women have done and why we reveal through our conversations what our belief systems are. So she could begin to be better aware of what it is that she's saying, what it is that she's doing, and why she wants to be in touch with this baby in a way that promotes the healthiest gestation. Almost everybody wants a really intelligent child. And
Yes.
the way to get an intelligent child is to be as stress-free as possible, because that means that the baby is going to get a different set of brain development functions as the baby is in the womb. And all of that is outpictured, and it's done in a number of different ways. So, for example, there's a whole chapter on symbology and what we're seeing through the news media, what we're seeing through history, what some of the greater lessons have been, what's archetypal, what has been there for years and years, and I call it hiding in plain sight. It's like these messages have been there, and what would they be? There's for example, there's a series of lovely pictures of women giving birth throughout the ages, and guess what? They're not lying down on their backs. They are sitting up. What a wonderful concept. To give birth, letting gravity assist you instead of lying down on your back. Really fundamental, easy kinds of things. It's not about making anybody wrong. Been there, done that. And I really wanted to be able to have women have a different point of view and know that they're not alone.
Susan, one of the chapters that I really like the best in this book is the chapter Picturing a Better Birth. Okay, tell us a little bit about this chapter. It's a wonderful chapter.
Thank you. Yes, after I did my initial research, I interviewed a number of women who were pregnant, and I interviewed them once before they gave birth, so they were still pregnant, and then once after. And I said, did your expectations get met? Was birth what you wanted it to be? And they taught me. They essentially revealed that for the most part, no, their expectations were not met. Something else happened. And a couple of them had what I considered to be ideal births. One was a young woman who gave birth in a birth center, and one was a young woman who gave birth in a hospital. And I took that information and I distilled it into a program saying, you can begin to visualize the best birth that you want. How do we manifest in this world? You know, if you want a Mercedes, you start thinking about Mercedes. You don't think about driving a Volkswagen. So basically what you want to do is picture the very best set of circumstances that you can, and I make a rationale for why this works. And I created an acronym called PRIMES, PRIMES. And basically it's about what to include in your visualization so that you can actually use an art therapy technique to outpicture what it is you'd like to have. So it would be, there's a process here, and you see where it's happening. So the environment is important. That's further down. But nonetheless, the infant's in the picture. The mother is in the picture, any support people that they want to have, and of course the environment. So that all of these characteristics are in there. The clearer you are, the better chance you have of having that particular outcome. If it works in every other way of manifesting, why not when you're giving birth? What
an awesome concept. And, you know, I think a lot of mothers, even though there's a lot of information out there about the day of birth, you know, and there's a lot of times they go in for different types of counseling to prepare them for this. Sometimes they'll even walk through the hospital, but this is an original concept of picturing a better birth. It's an original concept of really determining, you know, determining what your expectations are, but then also, you know, bringing them to pass and manifest through picturing it. That's a really fantastic concept. The mothers that have gone through this, how do they, you know, how do they relate? Does it work for them?
For the most part, it helps them get closer to the ideal that they would like to have. Recognize there's so much information bombarding young women these days. Women who are in their procreational years. A lot of it just comes from movies. I have a whole shelf full of movies, things like Knocked Up, things like Juno. All of these movies are going to be essentially working on programming the individual to think that bad things happen. And
Yes.
what we want to do is begin to shift that. But you are not going to change in that 280 days the mindset that has been developed over years.
Yes.
So what you're going to do is you're going to be able to perhaps help that young woman achieve more of what she would like. The possibility is, yes, she'll get exactly what she would like, which might be a home birth or a birth in water or a birth without any medications, no surgery, that sort of thing. There is a place for those things, but it should be much more on the basis of emergency as opposed to the standard order of the day, which is more what's happening these days. So yes, I'm seeing that it's helping. It's not a miraculous cure at this moment.
Of course, but every step forward is truly a step forward. And many things, like when you start changing the mindsets of people, including a whole generation or a whole nation, it takes many of these step forwards to be able to get to the final destination. Let's talk a little bit about the state of birth in the United States. Teach us a little bit about that.
Not good. Compared to other industrialized countries, our maternal mortality rates, our maternal morbidity, our infant mortality rates are off the charts. It's just incredible that we cannot do as well as places like Cuba. So our statistics are not good. There's every justification for change from that perspective, but there's a lot of investment in the way that we do things, particularly motivated by the efficiency of those people who are in birth settings, and recognize that that environment is really strong. If a young woman walks into a hospital where the C-section rate is 60% and expects to have a birth that is what we would consider a normal or natural birth, that is without drugs and surgery, the chances of it happening are not very good, because the mindset of all the people that are there is that the way we do this is with the introduction of technology. And daddies are very scared. When I go to places where I'm listening to what daddies are concerned about, at a birth center, for example, the daddies want to know, well, if anything happens, are they going to be able to transport my wife to the hospital quickly enough? So we've got a lot of fear to overcome to be able to make changes.
Well, I think some of that fear is, like you said, it comes a lot from these movies that are portrayed. And, most of the movies that I grew up watching when I did see a woman giving birth is, she's laying flat on her back screaming. And
That's right.
that's the mental mindset that we have. And birth doesn't have to be that way.
No, it does not.
That way at all. So then you have a lot of women that just are numb me up. I don't want to feel anything because I've got this horrible, horrible image of what I'm going to go through. So
there are many who are doing that, and you cannot blame them. This is not about making them wrong. They're a product of their education, their environment, their circumstances. And if there's a fear there, I would not want to try to change their minds. Not in the last 200 days of pregnancy. You really want to support them where they are. And that would be the first goal.
What a wonderful concept. I want to move along now a little bit. Now, you have done something that is just totally revolutionary. You have authored a series of books called The First Fairy Tale, and we published book number 1. I'm going to put it right up here. The First Fairy Tale, book number 1, The Adventure Begins. This is a beautiful book. The illustrations in this book are phenomenal by an award-winning artist. And tell us a little bit about the concept of this story. I just want to show a few of the outstanding illustrations here. Just absolutely beautiful, just gorgeous illustration. It's a high gloss book, total quality. Susan, tell us about the story.
It is so much my love, my passion. Basically, I was educating young people, particularly at the community college level. So people anywhere from 18 to 58. And I was realizing how little they know about this subject. And most of them sexually active, some of them already parents, but they really don't know a lot. And I attempted to get into a high school, and I got deterred there. And I thought, if I can't get into a high school, it's going to be very difficult to start in middle school or during elementary years. Where do I begin? How do you even start? And I thought what I'd like to do is put together a book that parents could read to babies. They can read after they're born, or they can read even before the baby's born. Truly, the baby is getting vibrationally what you are saying to that child. It's quite extraordinary what babies recognize once they're here. I was talking about Cat in the Hat research. The babies were hooked up to a pacifier that had electrodes tied to it, and the babies were telling the researchers what story they wanted to hear. And since they were newborns, it had to be that they'd heard the story before and they knew which one it was based on 2 stories being read. So I thought, I'm going to create something for mommies and daddies to read to their babies in utero and then beyond. And what I'm finding is that from friends of mine who are in the birth education field, what they're saying is that mommies are feeling more connected to the baby by beginning to read to it before the baby's even born. But what you are doing is you are giving that child a story that is an ideal, that shows that they are wanted, they are loved, they are welcomed, that the coming together of the sperm and the egg, which is not mentioned at all, by the way,
yes.
But as an adult, you would be able to figure that out as this metaphoric, that it's happening with beautiful precision in a way that an embrace occurs, that a new life takes shape at that moment. And that if there was anything in a person's conception journey, that babies, for example, and even the parents will begin to heal, they are putting in images. The brain does not know what's the difference between what's real and what's imagined.
Yes.
An example would be you are sleeping at night and you dream that you've fallen and you think that you're on the floor. And when you wake up, you realize you're still in bed. Essentially, the mind is an amazing, amazing tool that we have. So now that this can be healing, it can be helpful in terms of encouraging the most positive development that you want. And if there's been any difficulty reading these stories, because the first one is about conception, the second one we'll talk about in a minute, it's about the heart beginning to beat. The third one that's with the illustrator now is the time of gestation from the heartbeat until the time of birth. The fourth book, not yet written, will be about birth. But all of these stories are about an ideal that means that something perfect and wondrous, miraculous has occurred. So it's a very positive story to read, besides reading Dr. Seuss's books. Yeah, Seuss's books. And there are lots of wonderful stories out there that you might choose. Reading to the baby is really the most important thing. Reading my book would be high on my list, but people have to make that choice.
But I think reading your stories, and I did show book 1, I'm going to show book 2, and like Susan said, this is while the baby is in utero, but it is when the heart begins to beat. So we talked a little bit at the beginning about, maybe a little bit of the trauma the baby is feeling, maybe feeling a little bit rejected because of what the mother's going through. If there's something going on in the atmosphere in the home, and the mother starts to become aware that my environment, my stress level, even my beginning anxiety over being a mother and finding myself pregnant is affecting my baby. One of the ways that she could possibly start backpedaling there and doing it right would be to start reading these books, the first fairy tale 1 and 2, because what's happening is you're turning this birth experience, the conception experience, and the whole time in utero into a miraculous experience. Now the baby's feeling wanted and loved and not rejected. Am I right?
You are right.
Okay. So I think that these are the books that need to be read to the baby in utero, as well as then I think you and I talked about the first year of life after the baby is born. These books have a massive impact on the child, knowing that I'm wanted, I'm accepted, I'm loved. What else,
Indeed.
Susan?
Indeed. And if parents can do affirmations of this. You can always say to the baby, I love you, daddy loves you, grandma loves you. All of those kinds of things are very helpful for the baby. but the baby during the first year is in the hindbrain. That's what's online when the baby comes in. And so you're reaching the baby on a really fundamental level. They then get into the next system, which is the more emotional system over that first year. Literally, parents are teaching their children how to feel, what to feel. What, are they afraid? What are the prejudices and the biases of that family? The children are going to learn those, pick that up during the first year. Some of the information on attachment dynamics, and that's not a diagnosis, by the way, it's a style, but the way we relate to others for a lifetime is determined before we're even a year old. It's amazing.
Wow. Wow. That's revolutionary. And if we could master that, let's just say we raise up a generation that actually masters that concept, and they know how important the in utero time is, as well as that first year, and they start catering to that and catering to the child a little better during that time frame, instead of, oh my gosh, I woke up again, I've got to do this, I got to do that, instead of feeling, I could just almost picture the generation that would be that would come about and where they would take our world.
Indeed. Yes, I hold that vision as well. So the less we do to traumatize a baby from the moment it's conceived, even before conception. We know so much about epigenetics now, essentially the beyond the gene, and the genes do not have to be expressed. So if you carry a gene for a disease, for example, it does not have to express. They find this out in twin studies. That the potential for these children who are less traumatized and are more assured of the love that we all have for them through the stories that we read, the stories that we tell, the things that we say to them. We have a chance of really doing some phenomenal things in our communities, in homes, in our country, and around the world. Indeed. Promises.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Our viewers always ask me, I get emails and I get messages all of the time about where can I learn more about this? How do I know, reach Susan and reach out? So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up on the, I'm going to try to put up on the, let's see, there it is. Susan Highsmith on PhD.com. This is an amazing website that Susan has. She puts a lot of information on there, blog post, her videos, her vlog is going to be on there all of the time. So you want more information about this. You want more information about her books. Now, her books are available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and 39,000 other online retailers, as well as you can link up on Susan's website. You can go on the Words Matter Publishing website, get them from the Gold Shelf. They're in stores where the Gold Shelf is. So the books are readily available if you're looking for them. But really, to connect with Susan, she has a couple of platforms available where she's constantly feeding you great information. And that is Susan Highsmith, PhD, right here. And Susan, you have a very, very nice Facebook page, and it is called Knowing Babies. Let's see if I can get that up there. For some reason, it's not wanting to show, but Knowing Babies on Facebook. Let's see. There it is. Nope. There it is not. Okay, little technical difficulties here. There we go. Knowing Babies on Facebook. So if you go on Facebook and you type in Knowing Babies up in your search bar, you're going to find this amazing, amazing Facebook page. She has a lot of followers, a lot of great information there. She's also connecting you to other resources that she personally, I want to say approves of, some of the other organizations where you can get that she approves of. So I want you to go on Knowing Babies. I want you to follow Susan on Knowing Babies and check out her website, because those are wonderful resources for you. So Susan, I have another question for you. Now, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. I'm just not sure you're going to be able to answer it, but do you believe in retirement?
Yes, looking at me and my age, for example, no, I don't. I do not. Okay. I really believe that our society is doing a lot to separate the generations, and that we as elders, we need the juice of the young people, and they need our wisdom. those of
Yes.
us who have reached this stage in life, I'm beyond 70, and basically, I would say that me and my colleagues, my peers, are better educated. We have more experience. We have more knowledge. We have so many things that we can share, and it's really a shame to sequester these people off in age-restricted communities.
Yes.
And I have some experience with those. So my sense is we have so much to offer. And I would, in fact, I encourage all the time, women, I have a clientele, and most of them are between 50 and 70 years old. We're all trying to figure out what went wrong. How did we lose our self-esteem so that we can move into these creative years? We are beyond the procreative years, but we can support all those young people who are in those phases of their lives. And many of the women that I know who are now mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers are out there supporting by being doulas, by being birth educators, to say, hey, kids, we're here for you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. If I had to give you a title, I'm going to call you a revolutionary. I think on many, many levels, you have revolutionary concepts, goals, visions, and I just applaud that. I really applaud that. Phenomenal, absolutely a phenomenal woman, Susan, and it is a joy to work with you with your books. It's just a joy.
And right back at you. Honestly,
Well,
I am so grateful for you and your publishing house, Words Matter, and all the help that you have been giving me. Thank you.
Thank you. It is such a joy. And I want people to pay attention to these books. I want you to get these books. If you know somebody who is pregnant and you want to help them in a very real, profound way, you're going to give them the Renaissance of Birth. This is a gift that will mean more to this family than you could ever know. If you know of a mother that is a reader, she loves to read, you're going to want to give her the first fairy tale series, because you're helping out that mother, you're helping out that father, you're helping out that child, and every child that will come from that child. So, I mean, you're really impacting, generations to come. Yes. What else do you have for us today, Susan?
Thank you. I just so appreciate your understanding of what the books are about and what they can do to make a positive difference in the world. As you can tell, I'm very much about changing the language of childbirth, changing 9 months to 10 months. I'd like to get rid of delivery, because I believe that that's disempowering. Women give birth. We can use birth as a verb. Birthing is much better. Babies are born, mothers give birth. All of those things are so important. And to stop labeling mommies the minute they get into a hospital as failing to progress. Of course they would. We're mammals. If they have white coat syndrome, they get scared when they go in and their labors and contractions begin to slow down. We need to give them time to catch up, because that's exactly what happens in the wild with animals that are giving birth. It's safety first and birth second, and the natural biology takes over. There's so many things that you can do, and things that you can make small differences in as you read and you begin to have ideas of your own that are supporting mommies and babies these days. Thank you.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. But you did spur up a couple more questions. So, Susan, could you tell us a little bit about the word delivery? Where does it actually come from, and how do we get rid of it?
Yes, it's very entrenched in our society. And my guess would be it probably started as many as 400 years ago, when we started putting women on their backs in order to be able to see what was going on. And that's not a good thing for either the mommy or the baby. Certainly 100 years ago, I love Larry Dossey's work. He's a huge visionary and a wonderful man who has come out of the medical model into a more alternative model. He talks about eras of medicine. And the first era was 100 years ago, when doctors were looking for more patients in hospitals, and they began enrolling women who were giving birth. To me, it's almost antithetical to think about giving birth in a place where the sick and dying go. But nonetheless, that's what we have created. And therefore, women then go there, and they will lie on their backs during the twilight sleep era, the time that I was born in 1943. basically women were strapped down. They were given a series of drugs that were really detrimental. And we've moved a bit beyond that, but mostly we are still giving all the power to the doctors and the personnel, saying that someone is delivering the baby, as opposed to mommy's giving birth, and keeping that language very empowering to the mother to let her know that this is a profound role. There's nobody else on the planet except women who can do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One other thing you brought up, you said that a lot of times the doctors say that the mother is failing, in the delivery process. She's failing. Do you believe that there are far too many C-sections taking place today?
Oh, very yes. I certainly do. Our C-section rate in this country is around a third. In some countries, it's 80, 90, and some places 100%. It's crazy. I talked to an OB-GYN down in, I wasn't in Venezuela, but she was at a conference where I was. And I said, what's going on in Venezuela? This has been a few years ago. And she said, oh, the C-section rate's almost 100% now. And women are so conditioned. They're saying, I don't want to give birth like a cow. Let's do it. Let's use current technology. They don't realize the beautiful system that nature has designed, and that, plastic surgeons are making a lot of money by fixing up these scars, but there's lots and lots of stuff that goes on for women over a lifetime as a result of having major surgery. It is the most performed major surgery in this country. As I say, the rate is around a third, but it's higher in teaching hospitals. And because we end up with a live baby, we think it's okay, but we don't realize some of the difficulties that these babies that are born a little too soon, particularly with a scheduled C-section, really have. I really want to see babies born at 40 weeks. 280 days is the ideal.
Wonderful. Susan, this has been an amazing interview. I have learned a lot, and I know that anybody that watches this full video will learn a lot also, because you are just a textbook of information. It's just a textbook brought to life with heart and feeling and emotion and passion. So that is, again, my revolutionary. I love her.
Thank you. Thank you. Not retiring.
I love it. Don't. The way I'm going with this company, I'm not going to be able to retire until I'm 90, Okay.
Jeepers, if we do what we think is promised, that we can actually live to 120, 150 and be healthy during those years. In fact, doing what we're passionate about will help create that health for a long, long time.
Yes. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Like us, share this video, get it out, get these books to anybody that is having a baby, and they will thank you for it. And Susan will thank you also.
You bet. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to sign off for today. Bye-bye, everybody. And we will see you again for another episode real soon of Book Buzz. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tammy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.